Hi, everybody. So, this is our introduction to ancient Greece, and today, as always, we're going to start off with geography. So, we're going to identify the ways that geography of Greece helped to shape its culture. We'll look at the basic geography like we do with every country we've studied. We're going to look at early cultures that influenced Greece, the Minoans, the Mycenaeans, Phoenicians, and Dorians, and then we'll look at some early Greek culture. So, let's set the stage. The geography of the ancient Greeks was considerably different than any previous culture we've studied. So it's very different than Egypt, than Mesopotamia, China, and India. The culture of the ancient Greeks was shaped by several different other cultures around them: the Minoans, Mycenaeans, Phoenicians, and Dorians. So here's Greece. You can see it right there. My mouse is circling it right here at the bottom of Europe. And this is a nice up close picture of Greece. And you can see the two main places we're going to look at for this unit are Athens and Sparta. So, ancient Greece mostly consisted of a mountainous peninsula. That means it juts out on three sides into the Mediterranean Sea. And there's over 2,000 islands in the Aegean and Ionian seas that are on the other two sides. The sea was to Greece what rivers were to Egypt and Mesopotamia. So remember I told you how important it was to live near a river if you wanted to be able to survive. The Greeks had to live near a sea because they had no rivers. It was said that the Greeks did not live on the land but around the sea because the sea becomes so important to their culture. The Greeks became master shipbuilders due to the fact that they had to trade on the sea as well. So here's just some of the 2,000 islands that are located in the Ionian and Aegean seas. Greece lacks natural resources, so there's no farmland in Greece. There's no timber. There's no precious metals for them to make silver and iron and things like that. So, in order for them to get all those things, they have to go across those three seas in ships and trade with other areas of what they do have. What they do have is a lot of mountains. It's three-fourths of ancient Greece is covered in rugged mountains. And the mountains divide up Greece into several different territories, which actually shapes their life quite a bit. There's uneven terrain, so it makes it very difficult to travel throughout Greece. There's no large scale irrigation, so they can't have a lot of farmland. And the land can't sustain a large population. So, where we saw in Egypt and India and China, where they have these massive rivers and they can have really big populations, they just don't have that in Greece. So, the populations in each area are very small. Their climate there varies from about 48 degrees to 80 degrees in the summer. So their coldest day is 48, their warmest day is 80. So it's kind of this perfect temperature range. So we're going to start off here on this little island that I've circled, which is where the Minoans came from. The Minoans gave the Greeks architecture, which we're going to look at in this unit, burial customs, and religious rituals such as funerals. They were very outdoorsy and athletic like the Greeks, which is going to lead the Greeks to develop the Olympics. Next, we have the Phoenicians. So the Phoenicians are mostly located right here. This area over here is Africa, and you see a lot of the Phoenicians there. And these little black dots here are where the Greek settlements are. So they're very close to one another and influenced each other a lot. The Greeks gave the world the Phoenician alphabet, the phonetic alphabet. So that's that alphabet where we go based on sound. And we're going to show you how that is developed into the alphabet that we use. And they were excellent merchant shipbuilders. So they're the ones who taught the Greeks how to build ships, and therefore the Greeks were able to sail the open seas and trade with other areas. So here's the Phoenician alphabet. You see, if you start all the way over to the left, we have the hieroglyphics we learned with Egyptian. The Phoenicians gave these symbols here, which eventually turned into, with the Greeks, these symbols here, which look very similar in a lot of ways to ours. So when we say A, obviously their A is the same. So we got all of these letters from the Phoenician alphabet. Mycenaeans are located here, kind of at the top of where Greece is located. And they influenced Greek religious practices, gave them politics, literature, art that's going to then help Greece develop their own. And they fought the Trojans at Troy in the Trojan Wars, which we'll also look at. The last group is the Dorians. So the Dorians were found in all the areas that are this green area, so up here, down here, and over here. We don't know a lot about the Dorians. We have very little history because this is called the Dark Ages of Greek history. A lot of people had left Greece and gone to a lot of those other 2,000 islands during this time period. So that's why we don't have a lot of history on them at all. So, due to the warm climate, the Greeks enjoyed and participated in a lot of outdoor activities. Due to the terrain, they're going to create city states. And remember, city states operate like independent countries. So, inside of Greece are all these small city states like Sparta, Athens, Troy, and they're all going to operate like their own independent country. And that means that the Greeks are a civilization, not an empire. Because remember, an empire means it's a large territory under one ruler. Each of these city states had their own ruler. Sparta had a ruler, Athens had a ruler, Troy had a ruler. The Greeks share a lot of similarities in their culture, but their politics and their military differ very much in each city state. So there's some of the bigger city states in Greece. The Greeks gave us epics or narrative poems, celebrated heroic deeds and characters, like Homer, who wrote the Iliad or the story of the Trojan Wars, and the Odyssey, which a lot of you are going to read when you get to English class sophomore and junior year. And the Greeks were master shipbuilders, because remember, they learned that from the Phoenicians. So they built the triremes, which are sturdy ships with that battering ram right here in the front of the ship, and then obviously massive power because of all the oars that are coming out. Greek architecture, which we're going to look at, you should see similar structures like this. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., you've seen the Capitol building, if you've seen the White House, if you've seen the Senate buildings, they all look like the Greek buildings because Greece is the one who invented democracies, and that's the kind of government that we have. The Greeks are going to invent democracy, philosophy, different types of warfare, and then architecture. And they're going to fight many battles against a superpower called the Persians, which we're going to learn about at the end of the unit. We're going to also see Alexander the Great, who's going to take the Greek, the Persian, and the Egyptian cultures and blend them together to cover most of Asia when he does conquer those areas. So what you guys are going to do is on a piece of paper that you can get from Mr. Rhodes, or if you are doing this at home, you can do it on a piece of paper at home. You're going to answer these three questions. So the first one is, how did the mountains and the sea influence Greek history? The second one is you're going to create a chart on paper that each group that has each group from the video, this video right here, Minoans, Mycenaeans, Phoenicians, and Dorians. Tell me one fact about each and then draw a picture that represents each one. And then tell me one of the difficulties Greeks faced because of their geography and how did they solve it. So put all this on one paper, take a picture of it, and upload it into Google Classroom. If you are in person, Mr. Rhodes has paper. If you're at home, just use notebook paper that you can find there. All right, see you guys tomorrow.